Anything that helps to study about past human activity is known as a source. Today we are going to discuss grade 10 lesson number 1. It's about sources of study in history. Sources can be divided into two parts. They are known as literary sources and archaeological sources. Today we are going to discuss about what is known as literary source and what are the two parts of literary sources. We can divide literary sources into foreign and local literary source. Do you know what is known as a literary source? A literary source means any written document. If anything can be taken from a book, a prose, poetry, we can name them as literary source. Literary sources can be divided into two parts, known as local literary source and as well as foreign literary source. Books and documents written by Sri Lankans who lived in olden days known as local literary source. Do you know what was the oldest literary source? It's known as Deepavamsa, which was composed in 4th century. Then what was the second oldest chronicle? It's known as Mahavamsa. If there's a question, who wrote Mahavamsa? Mahavamsa was written by Mahanama Thero, who lived in Diksanda Senavia Pirivena. Do you know there is a dictionary, or else we call an annotation, which explain the difficult parts of Mahavamsa? That book is known as Vansatappa Kasini, or else we give another name Mahavamsa Tikava. So from that we can refer the difficult parts of Mahavamsa. Deepavamsa consists of the information from the arrival of Lord Buddha to the end of King Mahasen. And at the same time, the first part of Mahavamsa also mentioned the same story, arrival of Lord Buddha to the end of King Mahasen. So we can see that there are some similarities between Mahavamsa and Deepavamsa. Why is that? Because those two chronicles, Mahavamsa and Deepavamsa, influenced by Sihala Attakatha, Vinay Attakatha Mahavamsa and Uttara Vihara Attakatha Mahavamsa. These questions may come for your O-level exam. Do you know why Rajavali, which was a local literary source, why it is important? Because from Rajavali, we can get the political information from Gampola kingdom to Kotte kingdom. So next question, why Nikaya Sangraha is important? From which time period, from what are the areas we can get information from Nikaya Sangraha? Nikaya Sangraha helps to study about the Buddhist order or else Buddha Sasana. And Bodhivamsa, Tupamsa, Dhatuvamsa, these texts, these local literary texts, very important to study about religious factors. So you have to remember all those factors if you need to get A pass for your O-level exam. Now let's see the last point that we have to study under local literary source. It's about when we are building history through local literary sources, we have to follow four factors. We have to follow four factors. So those were, number one, the author of the objective. Who is the author of the objective? And then the time in which the source was written, the time period we have to refer. As well as the third point, how we gathered, how the author collected information for the source. And the last point that you have to remember, author's objective. So you have to remember those four factors when you are building history through local literary source. If there is a question for your exam paper, what is known as foreign literary source? How do you answer? Books and documents written by foreign authors mentioning information about Sri Lanka is known as foreign literary source. There are three famous Tamil books which mention information about Sri Lanka. They were known as Manimegalai, Silappadikaram, Kaduru Pattu. They mention information about Sri Lanka. There are two types of foreign authors. They were known as authors who came to Sri Lanka and authors who did not come to Sri Lanka, but they inquired information from others and wrote about Sri Lanka. So we categorize foreign sources can be divided into two parts known as authors who came to Sri Lanka and authors who did not come to Sri Lanka. Some examples for authors who came to Sri Lanka. They were known as Pahian Thero, Ibn Battuta, Robert Knox and Ribeiro. They came to Sri Lanka. When discussing about the authors who did not come to Sri Lanka, we can take examples like Aristotle, Megasthenes, Onecrates, Hingzhuang, Theron, Pliny, Ptolemy. They didn't come to Sri Lanka, but they wrote about Sri Lanka by taking information from others. There will be MCQ questions as well as structured questions from local literary source as well as foreign literary source. So hope this session will help for your O-level examination.